Have you ever wondered why Chinese characters are so hard to write and why Chinese pronunciations sound so strong? At first, these two things may seem completely unrelated because one thing is writing and the other is speaking. But today, I accidentally discovered something that connects them. And it all started because I tried to write like Leonardo da Vinci. This morning I was reading a biography of Leonardo da Vinci. It mentioned that one possible reason for his famous mirror writing was that he wrote with his left hand. Writing from right to left may have helped him avoid smudging the ink. I thought that was fascinating, so I decided to try it myself. I picked up a pen with my left hand and started writing Chinese characters from right to left. And here is the interesting part. I am right-handed today, but when I was a child, I was actually left-handed. When I started school at around 5 years old, my family didn't really encourage me to use my left hand. So over time, I learned to write with my right hand. And for decades, I have only written Chinese characters with my right hand. So when I tried writing with my left hand this morning, something very strange happened. My handwriting looked terrible. The characters were crooked, and the strokes were unstable. Everything looked like it was written by a complete beginner. And suddenly, I remembered what it felt like when I was 5, first learned to write Chinese characters as a child. And that uncomfortable feeling came back immediately. I kept writing 1 line, 2 lines, and then 10 lines, 13 lines, still messy. But then halfway through, I suddenly realized something. The problem wasn't that I didn't know Chinese characters. Of course, I know them. I have been writing them for decades. The real problem was that my left hand didn't know how to control the force. Chinese characters are not just written, they are built. So every horizontal stroke has to be stable. And then every vertical stroke has to stand straight. And then every dot, every hook, every slant, and the downward stroke has to land in the right place. For doing that, your hand needs pressure, your wrist needs control, and then your arm needs a point of support. And once I started pressing my hand more firmly against the paper, I found the right balance, and my writing immediately improved. It's not perfectly, of course, but it's noticeably improved. And that when I had my real aha moment, because this is also why Chinese pronunciation feels so difficult for many learners. Because in a way, speaking Chinese is a little bit like writing Chinese characters. Chinese characters need structure, and Chinese pronunciation needs structure too. When we write, the strokes cannot be loose and floating. And then when we speak, the tones cannot be loose and flat. Every syllable in Mandarin has to be clear. Each tone has to have a shape. It rises, falls, dips, and it's almost like the voice is drawing strokes in the air. And then for many Chinese speakers who learn English, the opposite problem happens. We often bring the rhythm of Chinese into English. Chinese is syllable by syllable, tone by tone. It's very clear and defined, but English has a very different rhythm. It connects words, reduces sounds, and uses stress to like in a softer, more flowing way. So sometimes when Chinese people speak English, it may sound too sharp, too even, or too separate. For example, listen to this. I will show you with an example. I am trying to practice in English because I want to improve. I think I can speak English fairly well. But sometimes I still make mistakes and express myself awkwardly. What's your feeling? Have you ever heard this before? It doesn't mean the speaker is bad at English. It simply means our native language is shaping the way we use our voice. And then now listen to the same sentence with more natural English rhythm. I am okay, getting influenced by the previous one. I'm trying to practice in English because I want to improve. I think I can speak English very well, but sometimes I still make mistakes and express myself awkwardly. So this is an example. It's not perfect and it's a demo. Do you hear the difference between the first one and the second one? The first sounds like each word is written as a separate Chinese character, and second one flows more like English. And for English or French speakers learning Chinese, the challenge is often the opposite. You may need to add more structure, more clarity, and then more force. And then when writing Chinese characters, don't let your hand float. Use your wrist and let the strokes land clearly on the paper. And when speaking Chinese, don't make the tones too flat. For example, don't say 你好吗? Say it with clear tones. 你好吗? Each character has its own shape. Here, 你 goes down and then rises. 好 also dips and rises. 吗 as light and neutral. But there is also a tone change because when two third tones like 你好 come together, the first one usually changes into the second tone. So even though 你 is originally third tone, in 你好, it is pronounced more like 你好 because 你好. Saying two dipping tones in a row would feel very heavy and unnatural, and it's difficult to pronounce. So at the beginning, you may even need to exaggerate a little, and that's normal. I remember when Chinese children learn Chinese characters, they also exaggerate the strokes first. They practice slowly and carefully, stroke by stroke. The same thing happens with pronunciation. So at first, exaggerate the tones, and then later, you will become natural. This is why sometimes in a restaurant, two Chinese people may sound like they are arguing, but that they are not. They may just be chatting normally. And then to people from other cultures, Chinese can sound intense because the tones and rhythms and syllables carry more visible energy. And then native speakers often don't notice this, but learners from outside notice it immediately. So here is my little discovery from today. To write Chinese well, your strokes need strength and structure. To speak Chinese well, your tones also need strength and structure. Chinese is not a flat language. It has lines, angles, and a movement, and an energy, just like Chinese characters. So next time you practice Chinese, don't only memorize vocabulary. You have to feel the shape of the language and then write the characters as if you are drawing controlled lines. And then when you speak the tones as if your voice is drawing those lines in the air. That may be the secret. At least that's what I discovered today while trying to write like Leonardo da Vinci. So what do you think? Do you feel that Chinese sounds more forceful than your native language? If you think so, please leave a message and share your thoughts with me if you disagree. So I will see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao!